Call the meeting to order. Today, December 14th, 2021, and today is our work session. And the first item of business today on our work session agenda is something that we always enjoy being able to recognize our employees. We have with us a good number of individuals in the audience today who are celebrating service recognition as well as some who are celebrating retirement. And so we want to be able to celebrate with them and to honor their achievements. So at this time, I'm going to recognize Don Adams and Kathleen Breedlove, our county manager and our human resource officer, who will walk us through these lists and give us an opportunity to applaud and recognize these individuals. Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir. So this is a good occasion. We do like to recognize our employees that provide a great service to Jackson County and also our retirees. I would talk a little bit about process real quick, and then we can move forward with it. First, we'd like to start off with this employee service years achieved during calendar year 2021. You'll see I have it up on the screen, and if it pleases the board, what I'd like to do, we have some of these individuals here and some we do not have here. And so what I'd like to do is just go through the list of those who are not here. And then once I'm finished with that, we can do our applaud. And then after that, I would invite the board to come down, if you would. And then we can call on those here with the 20 years, 25 years, and 30 years of service to come before the board, and then we'd like to get a picture of you if that's okay. And then after that, we'll proceed with the retiree discussions. All right. So first of all, I'd like to just go through the list of those with 20 years of service for Jackson County who are unable to attend today. And unable to attend today was Miss Jennifer Blanton with the Register of Deeds, John Fox with the Sheriff's Office.
He's here.
Oh, is he here?
Yep.
Okay. I'll put my little star next to it that he's here. I'm sorry, I'm going off of a list of who responded and who didn't. And then we have Dwight Mcmahon. Is he not here? I just want to make sure he's not here. Not here. And out of the 20 years of service, those are the individuals we want to appreciate and recognize. And out of the 25 years of service, who is not here today with us is Julie Creason with the Health Department and David Monteith with the Garage. And then with the 30 years of service, Ms. Kim Cade with Social Services is not here today. So I'd like to...
And Dwight Mcmahon just walked in. So.
Oh, did he? Okay. Start that one. Okay. So, having said that, I'd like to, just those who are not here, we'll give them a round of applause. Thank you. Appreciate it. They will get the certificates for the years of service. And so, if it pleases the board, if you want to come down, we'll go through the ones who are here.
Let me just say for the record, Commissioner Dietz could not be with us today, but he is participating via Zoom, so he is here online.
Yeah,
I don't have their certificates here.
Thank you.
Huh?
I don't have their certificates here.
Can you go get them real quick? She's going to run back and get the certificates of the ones we weren't. But we can go ahead and. So you said John Fox is here now. Okay. Well, who was the two that came in?
Dwight came in.
Was it John? John Fox? Okay. I'll go with him. We'll go ahead and get started here. So first, if we could have Avery Brown come up. Avery, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You would just, we're going to take a picture of you here in a second. Yes, sir. Thank you. And then we'll go ahead and just hang out for a second, and we're going to grab a picture of everybody. Okay, and Joan Buchanan. And then Selena Hall. Oh, hello. And Wendy Smith. Wendy? Wendy. All right. And Rusty Ellis, if you'd come on up. Now we're to the 25 years of service. Thank you, sir. Still working, actually. Well, yeah. And Becky Green, 25 years of service with social. Is Becky here? Rebecca Green? All right, Miss Green is not here. And then Captain McCoy. Patrick, are you up?
Certificates are not actually in here.
Okay. I'm going to hand y'all blank things there, right? Thank you. Patrick. Yes, sir. Okay. And so if Mr. John Fox and Mr. McMahon would come on up. Thank you, sir. So did you say they were blank? I'm not going to hand them a blank. I'm not going to hand them. Thank you, sir. Kathleen will get you your certificates. Yeah. All right. So we're going.
Actually, I do have them. I brought them because I didn't sure.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I do have them.
I did have them.
All right, folks. Hey, let's give these folks a hand of applause. Thank you. And we really greatly appreciate your service to Jackson County and your continuous service. And what we would like to do is just, if you can just come back over here around the board, we'll snap a picture and we'll move on. Just work your way in. Again, thank y'all. No, we got, hang on.
Sorry.
She handed me a thing with nothing in it. Okay. Let me get this. Y'all bear with me. All right, now we're going to go and look at the 2021 calendar year retirees. And again, what I'll do is, and if I'm missing someone, I'm going off of the sheet here. Y'all tell me, but I'll go through the individuals who are not here today, and then we'll recognize the individuals who are here today. And with the retirees, what we'll do is we'll do pictures one at a time with them, if it pleases the board. And then, having said that, I'll move forward. And so on the list here, not here today, is John Owen, Parks and Recreation, retired November 1st, 21, 11 and a half years. Jennifer Abshire, Social Services, retired July 1st, 21, with 29 and a half years of service. Kim Hooper with the Sheriff's Office with 27 and a quarter years service. Russell Jenkins with Environmental Health, 34 years of service. Mike Caldwell with Maintenance with 20 and a half years of service. James Scarborough with our transfer station, Landfill Enterprises, with 15 years of service. Kent Davis with the Sheriff's Office with 5.5 years of service. Melissa Akers, Permitting and Code Enforcement with 14.5 years of service. And I think Jimmy is not here, right? Jimmy Clausen? Okay. So Jimmy Clausen with the Sheriff's Office with 28 and a quarter years service. Scroll this down. Sheila Atkins with the Sheriff's Office with 27 and a quarter years service. Sheila Clayton with Tax Collector Office with 26 and a half years of service. And Cheryl Crawford with Board of Elections with 23 and a quarter years service. So they will all receive a certificate and the clocks too. They'll be sent to them, and just want to say appreciate their service for Jackson County. So, Mr. Hamilton is back here to see us again. Well, we'll go, and first person to come up is Mr. Joe Hamilton, our Register of Deeds with 23 years of service. Joe?
Joe, that clock's for you to know what time you got to start for breakfast. My wife doesn't want that. You don't have to take them. Stand right here and get a picture of
Thank you, Joe. All right, next we have Miss Sally Sutton with the Health Department of 17 years. Good, thank you. Next, we have Howard Roner with Aging with 5.5 years. Howard?
congratulations.
Yeah. Do you mind taking a picture of this one? Yeah, thanks. Just for any that don't know, Howard Roner is my first cousin.
Thank you. Next, we have Arlene Rice with Emergency Management with 28 and 3/4 year service. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Next, we have Steve Beasley with Permitting Code Enforcement, 14 and 40 years. Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you, sir. Steve spent many an hour out there at Cullowhee during all of our apartment complex. Yeah. And last but definitely not least, Miss Wanda Hall with Emergency Telephone with 29 and 4 years. Wanda?
It's my mama and my daddy's wife. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I highly You can't put in masks. Yeah, she says, we have to get rid of these masks for these pictures. Oh. I see in the paper all the masks, and I'm like, what's the point of this? Can't even see who these people are.
I believe that's it. Well, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later, Gail.
All right, see y'all. Okay, we'll go ahead to the next item on the agenda, item 2. Mr. Adams, you want to tee this one up?
Yes, sir. Basically, we do have Mr. Breedlove here, our executive director for our TDA, and he is here to provide a county commissioner update.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for making time for us. It's hard to sum up the last year in 20 minutes, but I'm going to try to hit the highlights, and got some really great news to share with you guys before the year end. Let's see here. There we go. So the best news I have to share with you is we have increased tourism spending in Jackson to the tune of almost $300 million, and that is only second behind Buncombe County.
Wow.
And what that means for us in the region is we put over 2,000 people to work. That's a hefty increase over last year, almost 1,900 people in the tourism-related industry. And that generates over $84.5 million in paychecks. And what I like to tell people is a lot of people see tourism as traffic concerns or littering. But what I see this as is it puts food on people's tables and helps them pay their mortgages. And people visiting Jackson County, like I said, spend $292 million a year. And that's a study done by Tourism Economics, a nationwide firm. And, you know, if we break that number down, that's a really large number to understand. The way I like to view that is it puts over $800,000 into local small businesses every single day. And that's a pretty significant investment. And we also generate $23.9 million in state and local taxes, which save our residents over $500 a year on their taxes. Now, some trends, and if you have any questions as I go through, feel free to stop me or connect with me later, and I'm happy to provide more context on anything or meet with you individually as well. Some trends we've seen this last year, and I know this is hard to read, but that green bar at the very top is Airbnb collections for the most recent year. So on every stay overnight, we charge a 4% room tax, which comes back to our budget. And our budget is solely funded by those room tax dollars. So what we've seen, and this has been a trend nationwide, is Airbnb's had explosive growth during the pandemic. We've seen just in, I spoke with Commissioner Jones, who's on our board, and just in the Cashers, Glenville, Sapphire area, in the last 3 years approximately, we've seen an increase of 300 homes going into the Airbnb market. That does have an effect on housing, rentals, and affordable housing. So, you know, that's a challenge that not only we, but a lot of communities are facing right now. What we've also seen during the pandemic, these are the different categories of accommodations from bed and breakfast to camps, cabins and cottages, motels, hotels, resorts, and vacation rentals. And the trend that we see with motels and hotels as we look from the blue bar, which is 2018 and 19, over to the yellow bar, is we've seen the lodging market share of our hotels and motels decrease. And conversely, what we see with our vacation rentals is the red bar is last year. We've seen a slight leveling down for this fiscal year, but keep in mind, we're still collecting 8 more months of this fiscal year. So we expect that yellow bar to increase quite a good bit. The next slide is our total occupancy tax collections by month. And the green bar again is this current fiscal year. Right now, we're at $1.2 million, and we still have 8 months of our fiscal year left to collect. That said, we're at 88.6% of our budget and still with 8 months to go. So we expect to break every record in the TDA's history in terms of occupancy tax collection. In accommodation sales, so this number we derive by dividing the total room tax collections by 4% or 0.04. And that shows us that last year we sold almost $49 million in accommodations, that bright yellow bar. And this year so far, we've sold almost $38 million in accommodations. So it's a pretty significant number.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I did
Commissioner.
have a question on the occupancy tax collections by month. I had always thought, Nick, that October with the leaf season was peak, but here it shows August. Is there a change in that trend or?
Sure. So when we talk about collections, if somebody stays in October, they're remitted in November. So that November is actually October, and then the August is actually July.
Oh,
So July and October are usually our biggest months, and usually it's July followed by October.
okay.
That's a good question. This slide is not in your deck. I just received it today, but it's a summary of October. We sat at almost 75% occupancy, which is a record for October, and we had 15,811 room nights sold. So when someone stays overnight, that's one room night. And that generated $1.54 million in revenue for our hotels. Now, conversely, if we look at short-term rentals, we generated almost $5 million in revenue for short-term rentals, like Airbnb, Vrbo, and the like. And the average daily rate's a good bit higher. So we're seeing this trend continue, and everyone nationwide is wondering if it's going to correct itself and people shift back to hotels. But right now, people are feeling safer to get settled into an Airbnb, clean it, and just hang out as their home camp for their vacation. In staff updates, Caleb and myself, Caleb is our sales and marketing manager. He has been nonstop learning. That's something we pride ourselves in. He was named one of the top 30 in the entire world under the age of 30 for destination marketing organization professionals. I'm not going to read all his accomplishments, but he's making a name for himself. You can mention the word Caleb, and somebody knows he's from Jackson County, North Carolina at conferences. So we're proud to have him on our staff. The next item, capital projects, is something we've been talking about since we began the TDA. I was actually sitting here with commissioners in 2012 when they formed the TDA, and I remember there was a lot of discussion about capital projects, and we wanted to make sure we went about it the absolute best way to use these tourism dollars that are coming in at a record pace to reinvest in our community, assets that residents and visitors alike can enjoy. So now we've got a framework for an application for those capital projects. It's under review with legal and finance right now, and I'm sure at some point we'll have an application for you to preview to see what type of projects would be eligible, and certainly get your input on that as well. We did revise our grant program, and this year we funded 2 grants, and so far we've funded a $35,000 request to help the Cashers area with their ULI study, and also a $3,800 grant to the Blue Ridge National Heritage area to produce some arts and crafts video in Dillsboro. Sustainability is something that we can all be proud that we're working towards. And I know Commissioner Woody has been instrumental in leading that charge on our committees. And that's something, as we see more visitors, as a lifelong resident here, I don't want to grow tourism for growth's sake. I want it to be sustainable and want these mountains to be here for generations to come. So on this slide, you'll see several highlights from this last year. But we're working towards funding efforts that spread our visitors about, that bring them here during non-busy seasons. So we're not trying to attract everyone here on a Saturday in October, because they'll have less of a great experience and it'll also be crowded. So we're trying to spread people during what we call our need period, which is January through March. We also refer to it as our secret season. It's a time when the crowds clear out and the mountains are crisp, clean, and cool. And these are some of the efforts pictured. We wrote a grant for some recycling containers, and those are bear-proof. I never knew those existed, but they do. Some leave no trace signs at our river put-ins, and litter pickup grabbers for our Keep Our Mountains Clean and Green effort. Also pictured here is Caleb volunteering with Leave No Trace, who they came to Jackson County this year to do what they call a hotspot, which is to look at areas that are loved to death. What we don't want to turn into is Max Patch. I'm sure we've all seen that in the news, so we're trying to avoid that. The next slide, that's a partnership with Jackson County. We recognize that some areas were heavily used and the traffic and transportation issues became exacerbated. So that's Silver Run Falls, and cars just have so much trouble backing in and out. And the DOT just recently, within the last month or so, actually paved that parking lot as a result of our collaboration with commissioners and the DOT. So during the pandemic, we focused on community first and foremost, because we recognized that if we don't focus on our small businesses and restaurants, when our visitors come back, there won't be anything for them to come back to. So for the last year and a half, we've been working on campaigns to shop small and drive people to our small businesses downtown. And for this section, I'll turn it over to Caleb.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me today. I am Caleb Sullivan, the Sales and Marketing Manager. And a large part of what I do is I actually am seeking out group business to fill those need periods. So I want to get small groups, meeting planners to come out here and enjoy some of our unique venues, boutique lodging, and other things that are going to make our lodging industry more of a year-round effort as opposed to being just seasonal. And so some highlights for what I've done this year. I've attended about 7 in-person and 2 virtual sales, kind of like sales symposiums. I go around and I pitch Jackson County to meeting planners. These 2 are examples of one in-person and one virtual sales show I've done. So I do meeting planners associations as well as motor coach groups are some of the main ones I'm targeting. And then another side of the work I do is all of our social media work. So this year we've actually had a record year as far as our social media engagement and impressions. Those are 2 metrics that we use to kind of benchmark where we're headed with the work we're doing. So I won't spit off all of the achievements here, but we're seeing massive growth, a lot of interest in our destination. And so I can answer any questions for you or just circle back with me afterward. Thank you so much.
So Caleb didn't highlight it, but we had over 67 million views of our social media posts and 3.4 million engagements.
12 months.
2021 so far, year to date. So that's really impressive work. So since Caleb took that over, it's grown significantly. Our advertising, these are some examples of some ads we've run, 2 of them. One of them says, "Conquer summits, not stairs." And that's speaking to recovering post-pandemic. Let's get people out into nature. And we use our beautiful Jackson County imagery. The other one is for bringing meetings to the mountains. We're focusing on small meetings, 12 to 15 people that want somewhere after the meeting to get outdoors and enjoy our great outdoors. Our website, We've done some really impressive things with our website. I remember when I started with the TDA, we had 3,000 visits in October in 1 month. In October of this year, we had close to 70,000 visits to our website. So we're seeing a lot of growth with our website as well. Public relations, we signed with a new firm this year, and they've hit the ground running. They have offices throughout the entire U.S. Their name is Lou Hammond Group, and they've already brought several influencers and national writers here. Tomorrow, I believe we've got a writer or a news personality from Tampa that's opening a Christmas gift from Jackson County live on air for the viewers. And all of this happens through our PR firm to generate interest and awareness in Jackson County.
Do you know, were they instrumental in getting the article in our state about Dillsboro? You know?
They were, yes.
Well, I had one of the Carolyn West, who's on the corn crew for years and years, told me yesterday that October was the best sales she'd ever had in all her years. So, and she thought that was a big part of just being in that magazine. People saw it, and
We've had Dillsboro merchants tell us they're having $5,000 days, which if you've been around the small merchants in Dillsboro, some of them will tell you they open and close their shops with the same $5 in the cash register day in, day out. So to have a $5,000 day is significant. Also in public relations, we've hosted several influencers, which are people with a large online following. We vet these people significantly and thoroughly so that we make sure we're bringing the right audience to Jackson County and also attracting the right type of people here. In other news, this is somewhat funny. We purchased 3 billboards, and that wasn't intentional. But we purchased 3 billboards at all of our main county corridors coming in from Atlanta, from Cherokee, and from Asheville. And the whole goal is to get people who may be passing through to Cherokee, who may be passing through to the casino, to get them into our small towns. Those DOT signs, the one right out here at exit 83, makes it look like we have a Taco Bell and that's it. This sign says 5 breweries, farm-to-table dining, and shopping.
yes.
We've heard from all of our merchants, they've seen an increase in business since we put these out. So it's a small investment to drive business into our small towns. We also launched what we call the Ale Trail Pass, where if you visit 4 out of 5 of our breweries, you get a free pint glass. The thing we're doing here is getting people to visit more than one brewery within a year. They have a year time frame. And we launched this last month. We've already had people from 22 states, including Hawaii, do this. So it keeps the brewery scene thriving. And here's a map of all the locations where people have come from who have completed that Ale Trail Pass. And why that's important is the breweries and the live music keep our downtown thriving. I took these photos almost 10 years ago. And this is, the top left is at 5 p.m. There's no cars on Main Street. The lower left is around 9 p.m. That's Mill Street. There's not a single vehicle on Mill Street. And then you fast forward to today.
Yeah.
And around 8 or 9 o'clock on a weekday, no less, you have trouble finding parking. I actually enjoy it when I have trouble finding parking downtown. Most people don't, but it means our small businesses have people patronizing them, which is great. So some developments we've had in the industry over the last year, we've got some great new culinary. We've got a place called Jane. It's on Main Street. It's Mediterranean cuisine. It's really terrific. And a lot of our travel writers love this place. We've also got Ilda, which is Southern Appalachian Italian themed cuisine. And they just won, through our PR firm, the work we did, they just won the top mountain restaurant in the state. So that's in the old Meatballs place.
Yeah.
Now, lodging, we've got some great developments. This is Clarion Point, the former Quality Inn in Silva. So that's coming down the highway from Asheville towards Silva on the right there, and they've remodeled the entire hotel. It's a terrific lodging facility. We've also got Hampton Resort, which reopened this year, and I've been fortunate to tour it, and it's absolutely stunning. They were sold completely out in October, not a single room available, which is great. The Wells Hotel, so if you've been to the former Laurelwood Inn, this is quite a facelift for that property. It's absolutely stunning, and that's right before you get to the crossroads on the left there in Cashers. Then we've also got the Hotel Cashers, which is the former Cashers Village Inn, and they've got an absolutely beautiful property there with about 20 rooms for people to stay in as well. So research, that's a big component of what we've been working on over the last year. It's something that we're spending a lot on, but it drives every decision that we make in terms of tourism marketing. So we actually now partner with Visa so that we know month by month how much visitors spend here, what origin markets they come from when they swipe their Visa card, what they spend on restaurants, hotels. We can even narrow it down to somebody in Cashers, how much resident or non-resident spends on fuel services. And we share all that data with our economic developer, Tiffany Henry, as well. It's really valuable data. And we can say, for example, we've got a ton of visitors from this market, but are they actually spending a lot? And we can target markets that spend more in Jackson County to drive our economy here. So it's really terrific data. We also partner with cell phone location data firms that tell us when cell phones travel into our market, where are they from? So we've got website data, so when people visit our website, we know where they're coming from, but this actually shows the cell phone coming into our market and whether it stays here for a day trip, a long day trip, or an overnight trip. So that way we're able to stretch our ad dollars even further by knowing exactly who our visitor is. We're also able to do visualizations like where residents go when they're within Jackson County. And it's hard to see here, but I'll try to highlight it with the laser pointer, this large loop here on the right. When we were on the call with our data company, we said, what's that? That's Western Carolina students going to Walmart.
Oh my goodness.
So you're actually able to see connections like that. We're also able to see out-of-state visitors and where they go when they're in Jackson County. So do they just stay in Silva, or do they go from Silva to Cashers? And then in Cashers, do they visit the waterfalls? Where do they bounce between? So with that, we're able to make better recommendations for when our visitors come here, what they might be interested in. And at this point, I'd entertain any questions.
Any questions for Nick?
How soon might we get into some capital project concepts?
So we're hoping to open the application after review in Q1 or Q2 of next year. And at that point, it would be live for any entity to apply.
So explain that a little
Yeah,
bit.
and what would that entail?
So we'll have a selection committee that thoroughly reviews the application, and they'll make a recommendation to our full board. And at that point, our full board will go back to the selection committee or the applicant for additional information to make sure the application is complete for consideration. And our board would then request a meeting with commissioners to go over the application, as commissioners have to approve the final funding for any capital project.
So this would possibly be a tourist business who would apply for this grant to expand their, or start a tourism business.
Exactly. So in Asheville, they've done things like zip lines, they've done museums, sports complexes are often talked about, but we want to make the highest and best use of these dollars. So we spent over the last year putting together this application, and we worked with a nationwide tourism strategist who's based in Asheville, and he's reviewed the application, and now it rests with legal and finance to make sure it meets all of our criteria within Jackson County and North Carolina to make sure it's up to code. But we're taking it slowly, wading into this, but we're ready to get started as well and reinvest some of these tourism dollars back into the community.
And if the commissioners had a project that we might want to partner with the TDA, what would be your recommendation?
I'd have to look better at that process if we have a project recommended internally. Right now, the process is engineered more so for private entities or for profits to come in, or actually nonprofits to come in and recommend a project.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, the people that won the destination wedding that was worth $40,000, where were they from?
So we held a wedding contest for a couple who was affected by COVID-19 to win a free wedding valued at $40,000 in Jackson County. We thought it'd be a great way to highlight Jackson County and its spectacular beauty, but also give back to frontline workers. We had over 10,000 votes on the entries, and the couple was Kayla and Jose. They're from Charlotte. She's a nurse in the ER, so she was frontline, and he's in telecommunications. So they weren't able to hold their wedding. They had a premature baby during COVID, so they had to postpone all their plans. And they got married here November 4th and had a beautiful ceremony.
Very good.
That's so nice. I'm just curious where they were from, so that's nice.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Nick. And let me just say, before we do move on to the next presentation, our schedule's a little bit different today. We had scheduled a 1:30 business session, and we've decided that we're just going to continue the work session through. So if anybody is joining us now on YouTube or Facebook or wherever this is being broadcast, I guess what they're watching now, whatever platform, that we are going to continue the work session agenda until we're finished with it, and then we will call to order the business session, the special call meeting. So a lot of these items that are on today's work session are pertinent topics for the business session to take place next, and so it just makes sense to continue these. But I didn't want someone to be logging in on YouTube to watch the meeting and try to figure out where is the meeting at, because we're still in the work session meeting. But when we get to the end of this meeting, we'll take a short recess to allow them to transition to the new meeting. So with that being said, we'll move on to item 3. Mr. Adams, I'll let you tee this one up.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Mr. Ellis is here to appear before the board to discuss the skate park. This is something that was brought up by Commissioner Dietz at a previous meeting, and I had requested Mr. Ellis to come before the board to maybe just give a little bit of history of maybe some skate park discussions in our community. I believe Chairman McMahon, you also had mentioned just out of curiosity where this lined up in our master planning process. So I'd asked Mr. Ellis to give a little bit of history on that, and then also potentially talk about next steps of how this conversation can occur.
Sure. Thank you. Hope everybody's doing well today. But yeah, like Don was saying, I know y'all talked about the skate park meetings a couple of weeks ago or months ago. It has been some topics in years past. I know when Jeff Carpenter was director way back in the day, there were some topics that also talked about skating within the town. That was an issue a long time ago with skaters being downtown Silva. So it was brought to our attention back in probably 2007, 8, around that area, what we can do for that population and those participants to find somewhere to skateboard. I know they came, a couple of parents that came to a couple of commissioners' meetings back in that time as well. It was addressed. It was one of those things that I guess we weren't able to find property at the time, and it kind of fell by the wayside. But with that being said, I did find some topics that were brought up in our 2005 master plan, which at that time there was around 425 residents that actually took part of the survey and some open houses. And on that master plan, a few open houses that we had was at Coley, Silva, Quala, and Cashers. And one of the questions was asked is that what type of recreation do you participate in on a regular basis? Of those 4 open houses, 5 responded by saying they participated in skateboarding. Another question was asked within that 2005 master plan was, what type of recreation facilities and programs would you like? And of those 4 open houses as well, there was 26 responded by saying a skate park. So that was the information that was within that master plan itself. We then did a new update master plan in 2013. We actually doubled our responses of the surveys and the participants that participated in the same amount of open houses within Cactus, Cullowhee, Qualla, and Cullowhee. There were 763 residents that took the surveys and participated in the 4 open houses. In their opinion, how important are the following potential parks and recreation improvements? And one of those was construct areas for skateboarding. Of those, 240 said it was important, 250 said not important. That's kind of what was summed up in both of those documents that we have notated for Parks and Recreation. I'll be presenting this to the Recreation Advisory Board in January to talk about this topic, along with other topics that you've probably seen in the paper with other projects that are coming up, including the Webster Park and some other stuff. But I also got up with Heather to get her to get me some information on some liability issues with skate parks. And I think what me and Heather talked about, as long as we're coming up with some type of ordinances and statutes that y'all vote on about implementing helmets, knee pads, stuff like that. As long as that's notated and come up with a resolution for that, and it's notated with signage, and not only the skate park as well as possibly eventually the Greenway also, which we do have signage at the Greenway now, stating that with helmets are required. There again, it's not something that's implemented, but it is a sign out there. So I think if this does come about. However, with the skate park and/or Greenway, it might be something that we do some type of resolution that the county is not held liable if something does happen with somebody riding a skateboard and/or bike on either the skate park and/or the Greenway. The other thing is actually a location as well. As we know, it's a hard time to find location, not only for a park but also for a skate park that will be kind of size wise. It all depends on what we're looking at size wise and how many people it can accommodate. Cherokee does have a skate park that they're within the reservation. There's a nice skate park in Asheville, if you know where that's at, downtown Asheville. So there's several ones that we can visit and look at, and then possibly look at and see what type of liability, not only space wise, but also other stuff that we can look into. So I just wanted to present this information to you, and I guess once I present it to my Recreation Advisory Board, they make comments and recommendations on how we move forward with that, and then come back to you and then see where we move forward with this.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
Have you been to the one in Cherokee?
I have been by it.
Any way you could guess the occupancy for that one could be?
I would say probably with that size, probably looking about 20 people at one time. Like I said, it all depends on the space wise as well, and the apparatuses that you have within it is also, there's different rails, there's ramps, there's all kinds of stuff that you can put within there as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Dietz, do you have any particular questions or comments?
Must have lulled into sleep.
May have lost connection here with us. I will say that I have been approached in the past about this idea, and I think first, one of the things that comes to my mind, I think when we think about skate parks, one of the first images that come to our mind is ramps and things where people are jumping and doing stunts, and that is a part of some skate parks, but it's also having a place where young people, I'm going to say, because there's not a lot of old people doing skating, but where younger people are just riding skateboards, and there's a whole host of other things that are not just a traditional skateboard, but today scooters, these little scooters, which is basically a skateboard with a stick on it that you're standing on, razors, roller blades, roller skates, a lot of those kind of activities that can be just done somewhere in a location where it's safe and they've got the kind of textured surface to allow them to perform those kind of. Here again, I've got 2 kids, and you know how algorithms work on social media sites, and I can tell that they look at the skateboard stuff because my social medias are just full of ads for razors and all sorts of those kind of activities. So anyway, and then we utilize our church parking lot a lot of times. We take the kids up there and they ride their little razors and skateboards around through the parking lot. So that is something that it's more than just doing stunts and that kind of
Right.
dangerous type
And
stuff.
we get those out there at Cullowhee as well as Cashers. We extended the sidewalk there, so we've got a lot more people that utilize that with skateboard. And like you said, the razors, the scooters, the rollerblader. We usually have 2 or 3 people that actually rollerblade around our park there in Cullowhee. So like you're saying, it's more than just that. So if there's an opportunity to actually provide a facility just specifically for that type of utilization of the skateboard and/or rollerblades or whatnot. So
If you've never tried it, you should try it. It is a lot harder than it
it
looks.
is.
It takes some strength to balance yourself on some of those things. You better make sure you got all the appropriate safety devices on because you will fall. And
The hoverboard.
same with hoverboards. That's right.
Stay away from the hoverboard.
But you do also have the electric scooters now as well that we do have on some of our parks. Yes, ma'am.
But giving kids an opportunity to get outside
Yes.
and to enjoy the outdoors and to recreate and do some of those things, it's just another way. And so I'm glad we're taking a look at this.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is item 4, Mr. Adams.
I'm gonna make a few comments and then I'll invite the chief up, I guess, to present. This was a last minute add-on for today's work session. You'll also see it's on today's business session too. Just to get a little bit of history on this, the sheriff's department's here to discuss video cameras, vehicle cameras, and taser system. This is something that was a request before this board at the beginning of our fiscal year. If you recall, in the budget management presentation, it was recommended that American Rescue Funds be utilized, if able to do so, utilized to purchase this system. In the past couple of months, county staff has been going through School of Government seminars. We've been going through other educational seminars, educating ourselves, understanding what these funds can be used for and how they can be used. We just completed that in October, beginning of November. And so it was the intentions to bring this issue back before the board either in December and January. I was actually going to bring it back before the board in January, but until I found out a few things here in the past week, a couple things. The chief had previously mentioned this. The sheriff's office was concerned about their existing equipment not operating properly. They've been holding off purchasing new equipment until this decision's made, talking about tasers and things of that nature. But also, Major Queen had gotten approached by the vendor, and you'll see that some new offers have been made if it can be done before the end of the calendar year. As far as staff goes, myself and Finance Officer Fox, it's in our opinion that these are eligible ARP expenditures. And then the final aspect of it is counsel, your attorney has reviewed contracts in regards to how to proceed forward, sole sourcing and things of that nature, and she is comfortable proceeding forward. And then the final key was that when I proposed to actually put this issue on the January work session, I did get a phone call from the sheriff citing some real safety concerns, immediate safety concerns because of equipment issues. And so basically where we're at is this is an issue that was basically put off at the beginning of the year to see if we can utilize ARP funds to purchase it. It has been determined that we can utilize ARP funds to purchase it. Legal has reviewed and is comfortable moving forward with the contract. And as you'll see from the sheriff's office, their need is fairly immediate versus even a month from now. And waiting a month from now, you'll see from either the chief or Major Queen, could actually cost us some incentives that are being offered at this point. So that's just what has driven this conversation to happen this month versus next month. Having said that, Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you and good afternoon. Apologize, first of all, the sheriff is under the weather and missed work yesterday and today, but he spoke with him this morning. He's on the mend, so I think he'll be back with us, but he's practicing good habits and staying away so we don't catch what he's got, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Shannon, if you want to come on up, because I'm going to lead into Shannon pretty quick. Just to reiterate what Mr. Adams has already told you and refresh your memory, this was a priority item in our budget. We discussed for the 21-22 fiscal year, as you know, we talked primarily about the salary improvements that the board so graciously made for the members of the sheriff's office, and that was a top tier item for us. When it came to capital projects or projects that we needed to expand on, Axon was number 2. This is a priority item for the sheriff's mission and goals for the office. And we see Axon as an integrated system that's going to bring things together for us in our tasers, our in-car cameras, and our evidence storage. And it's a sole source vendor, and we want to get this project up and running. And Shannon's going to go through the changes in the contract. But one of the things in the initial proposal, if you remember, that we talked about, we were limiting it a little bit as far as our staff. We've asked them, Axon, to go back and look at adding our investigations division into it, and that's why we're kind of pushing it a little bit at this point to get under the gun, is because they've thrown some incentives in there to get us some pre-equipment with the project. So, Shannon, if you'll come up and go through the items in the agenda, and I want to commend Shannon on what he's done with this project. He's our IT go-to guy and our equipment go-to guy, but he's put in a lot of time on the phone, on the computer, back and forth with Ms. Baker trying to get this done. So he's done a good job, and he's our resident guru on it. So Shannon, come on up.
Thank you, Chief. I don't know that I deserve all that, but I'll take it.
Take it.
On the agenda for the work session there, you'll see the first thing there is an incentive letter from the vendor. As the chief spoke there, we started this project looking at a company and looking at vendors more than 13 months ago. We put a presentation together for each of you during our budget presentations, and we included that in our budget presentation. As the year wore on, that last year, some of the stuff we're talking about that we've been dealing with, like our previous fiscal year budget, we didn't replace any tasers because we knew we were going to try this project, even though we were budgeted for it. So we're back into this fiscal year, and so we've not moved forward either. And so what we're seeing, some of the safety concerns that Mr. Adams was talking about, is we're starting to have failures with equipment where that equipment should have already been replaced. And that failure is not on the camera end, that's on the taser end for equipment that should have been replaced that we've not. And we had an instance over the weekend that resulted in, luckily, and those officers standing there, but a taser failure with a small deputy, big suspect, and needed to be tased in that situation, and couldn't, but there was another officer there. So luckily, they were able to use that other one, but fortunately, that's what occurred. But as y'all know, many times, it is usually just one deputy dealing with that person by themselves. Excuse me. And that's where we got to with part of the rush, like the safety concerns that the sheriff has is the rush. Axon as a company, I guess, is in the business of selling stuff. As the year wore on, they were like, we really want to find this contract before. What is it else you need that we can try to incentivize the program with to get the project moving? One of the things, like the chief talked about, that we didn't include was our investigators. As we spoke with some of our counterparts in law enforcement, primarily we spoke with, like Asheville Police Department, Waynesville Police Department, some other agencies across the state about what is your body camera taser program look like. Primarily the group that we were shocked to hear was the SBI said, you put them up with our investigators. We put that there. So transitioned our thought process a little bit. process a little bit, and that's where they said, well, we can throw in a free incentive. So that's where the extra tasers and body cameras came in from, was that. Then, to our benefit, I guess, previously there was one quote. That was included in your budget pack for a 5-year or a 10-year. We decided the 5-year plan was the best to go with, but that was the 2 quotes in your budget packs previously. Since then, Axon as a company decided that they wanted to break out their quoting system into 2 different quote protocols, where the tasers and the body cameras live in a quoting system, and the in-car video lives in a body camera system. Or in a quote system. Well, I'm glad they did, because that saved over $100,000. So that was part of the incentive. They re-quoted their system re-quoted the same thing we asked for, threw in 10 extra units, and came up with a savings of over $100,000 plus more equipment. So that, to me, made a lot of sense. Couple that with the incentive programs, we started working with a county attorney on the contract side of things, and she had some concerns. We sent that back to Axon. I think as of this morning, we've come to a resolution on all issues with the contract, received the contract back from Axon that I believe we all can agree with. There wasn't big things in there to be changed. There's some stuff that North Carolina needed to have changed by our way we do contracts in this state that Ms. Baker knew about. So that got fixed, and one of the other issues that passed through our hands that we wanted to make sure that was addressed was the sole sourcing, and you see a letter in there that we're talking about. That sole sourcing, as I understand from the statutory look from Ms. Baker, one of the things that other agencies had done, they've had these products in their hands and they're not ready to switch. Most of our officers who came through school have been trained in a version of this product to know how this product works. So to escape this product and go to another product means retraining everybody from a different mindset. So we do plan on training everybody with this particular model, again, because it is the newest, latest, greatest model that we don't currently have. But to stick with one company, and to our understanding from all of our research, there is not one company that does electroshock weapons, body cameras, in-car camera, and takes all that digital evidence and puts it in one place. And to me is really the key of it. Their system is not any one piece of the product. Their system is that back-end software and file retention system that's just uncomparable with any other vendor I've seen. So that's basically where we're at for the project today. And we do apologize for the rush to try to do it here before the end of the year, but the incentive offer was just too great of an incentive, plus with the safety concerns.
Axon, Major, Axon is the leader in this, what they offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots and lots of sheriff's office.
I give you the example of called Kleenex. Everybody blows their nose with the Kleenex, but may not be the brand. Everybody calls it a taser. There may be other competitors, but everybody calls it a taser. Axon was Taser. Taser became what they sold. That became their product. When they expanded into the camera world, we actually, in 2005, the first taser we had cameras stuck on the bottom of it. So that's was their first concept of putting cameras and tasers together. As they grew that into body-worn cameras, they decided they were not a taser company, I guess, and rebranded their name as Axon. So it's still the same company, just when they expanded services, they changed their name. So, but yeah, the taser is the company.
So, Major, I pulled up, we don't have to, the resolution that I pulled up in front of the board is the proposed approving purchase of the Axon Officer Safety Plan. I just wanted to point out at the bottom, it talks about the annual cost for 5 years being $242,090.15. The reason I wanted to point that amount out is, Major, I'm not asking you to go line item by line item, but just, this is for the board's information and public's information. We have the body camera and taser system. And so that, out of that 242 a year, how many units? So I just, again, real quick, how many units, tasers does that do, body cameras? Just general summary.
So 77 total body cameras. And you can see too, they also give you 2 spares in case one goes down, you're not without. You put that in. That will put a body camera on everybody practically who's doing the citizen or inmate involved. Then additional couple of that's the same number for tasers. So there will be no lack of taser or body camera issues. They'll all be coupled together, assigned officers. And then additionally with that same price is you're getting 24 in-car cameras, which will cover our primary marked patrol units that are on the road. That won't cover, we're not expanding that. Currently the thought of like resource officers, even though they'll have body cameras, but the actual car camera systems will be for 24 vehicles. So,
I just wanted to point out how many body cameras, how many tasers we're talking about, how many in-car camera systems, and I know that there's a lot of information, but we're trying to provide the quoted information to the public, but it all equates to that 242 number that I just mentioned per annual cost.
and that number also expands out even farther. The quotes are quite detailed. It expands out to the training. Yearly, we're supposed to fire these things into a dummy or into a target, and those little cartridges are like $20-something a pop. So everybody has to get trained. So included in that number is not another set of costs to replace those cartridges. That is included in that number to continually train those officers yearly with that training module that is included. And additionally, it comes with the instructor certification so we can have people certified to teach this product so we don't have to send them away. It includes a training package to send people off to school so they can actually come back and train other instructors. It's a quite big project, but I believe it accomplishes a lot of goals for several years and gets us to where we need to be with this technology.
They'll still shoot each other in training with those things still?
They offer it. Our policy does not require it. Some agencies' policy does require it. Is an option at training. So
I would choose no.
I would choose no as well.
In addition to the training and the equipment needs with the body cameras and the tasers on the in-car camera side of that, the quote includes installation of those cameras into our patrol cars. So that's a big cost. I'm going to be coming back to the board and saying we need money to install these. It's all wrapped into here.
All right, okay.
So we would incur some cost in getting our existing watch guard cameras out. They're going to put them in as part of the contract. And then, not to mention the licensing that comes with it for the evidence.com, which is what we've told you previously is a huge challenge for law enforcement. You've got all this data coming in, what you do with it. And so we don't have to come and purchase a standalone server or any other equipment to archive it. They're going to provide us that web-based upload to archive our data that we're collecting from all these cameras that we now become the owners of. So it's a very inclusive contract, and we think it's the best moving forward. And it locks in that price over 5 years, so where we're not having to come back in every year and deal with replacing tasers, replacing cameras. We're getting
Does that 242 yearly cost, 242,000, reflect the 125,000 incentive? Is that incorporated?
It does. It doesn't reflect that value. The incentive is built into that. That is the two quotes merged together for a total fee that you would be approving.
And the monies that we had budgeted for the purchase of other tasers, has that been considered rolled over into this package?
Just went back in the general fund.
still sitting there.
Okay.
Went back in the general fund. We gave that back.
Okay. All right. Good.
So, but yeah, we that was our option last year during our budget presentation. We could use that money towards it. I think that was $20-something thousand or so. So we were trying to buy a handful of them for $20-something thousand, but this is going to outfit a lot. And so that number was going to go up as the years went on through the next 5 years because we had more to replace through years where we had bought more. So we had more. This will expand the program to basically everybody in the sheriff's office.
Could you just touch on the investigation side? I was really intrigued by how much time savings this Exxon software would allow your investigators to get security information, camera information for various cases.
Absolutely. There's a lot of it to touch on, so I apologize up front. There's just a lot of it that makes sense in this system. The one that you're speaking of, I believe, is the portion where the officer can go to a scene, whether that be something that happened at a gas station or any other business that typically has security cameras. And what we're having to do now is go and wait for somebody with an IT department or somebody who's familiar with their system to burn up the disk, do whatever that they need to do, and then go back and pick that disk up, make copies of that disk, then turn it in the DA's office when we make a case. So that might not seem like a lot, but when I tell you the solution for it is that most of those systems have some way to forward that via email or portions of that through electronic means. So we just provide that business with a link, and they can upload it straight into the evidence.com system without coming through the disk version. And then once it's in that system, we can tag it and log it and push it onto the DA's office and never do anything to click buttons to do that with. It'll also be categorized on a case-by-case basis. When you create that link for that citizen, it will be already with the appropriate case number. So when it's put into the cloud system, we already know the case is for. And that goes with every bit of the video that's recorded, from the body camera to the car camera to the taser download, that you would actually have the ability to capture that information and categorize it from your cell phone. You could categorize it straight from the app on the cell phone and put it into that case number. And when it goes into the cloud system, it's already all merged into one file for you. You don't have to go looking in different places. And once it's in that file, there's certain things that we can't give out to the public or even to the DA's office at times. If I run your driver's license number, your screen capture of all your information is just not a record that we are supposed to share. But the system with a few clicks will basically blur that out. We've all probably watched TV shows where they blur out the faces during the video. I never knew how they did that. I figured there was some third-party vendor having to go through there and follow the little face around with a little blur thing. But this system will does it automatically for you. So that can be useful, especially with state laws about the reviewing of our video evidence that we create. Our video is not just subject to straight public record. For public records, at least, there's a particular way you have to do that. But it does allow for a certain aspect for people to come in and review it. And we can't just show all that to everybody. But when we do have people that do have the authority to come in and look at it, we also can't just let them see everybody's faces and all the information, and that there's certain things we have to redact. And so that system does that with clicks. So which is impressive to me, because that's what I've been the most impressed with, is the back end of the system more than the hardware. So it will all come into one. So you would have a scenario that would be, say a bank has video cameras. An officer's called there in his car. He could be recording on the way to the call. He gets to the call, he makes an arrest. He has to fight the person and has to wind up tasing them. And then it's on his body camera, and then has the bank footage. All of just the merging of that data will all be pushed back into the back end of that system and tied together for review, for case review, and then for investigative review.
Thank you very much.
Well, yes, ma'am.
I have actually two questions. My understanding was that we approved this budget previously. Is that correct?
No, I recommended that we used ARP monies, but we had to wait to get a better understanding if these funds could be utilized for this. So that is why we waited until this time period to bring this before the board. It's been recommended to you. It was recommended in my budget summary. It's been brought back to you when we talked about ARP funds, but this board has not officially approved to make the monies available.
Okay. Then that was my mistake. I thought that we approved this, when we approved the budget. Okay.
We didn't have funding available to put.
Okay. So this, how would the ARP funding be used? Would it go through those each year, this much taken out? Or would it be taken out in a lump sum for this and then kept in an account to pay each year?
It's in the grant ordinance fund, project fund, and we will make the payments out of that fund each year.
Okay. So what would be the total cost out of those ARP funds?
$1,210,450.90.
Okay. So the concern that we have then is that we need to do this now because things are wearing out. You delayed replacing equipment, waiting on this funding, is that correct?
Things are, they're already expired.
Yeah.
That's correct. We have aging equipment with failures occurring, and then the incentive that the company threw in to have it done by the year end is kind of we translated it today as a year end business sale, year end fire sale, trying to get their business numbers up for the year, which is not uncommon in the private industry. So
if we don't jump on it now, next year it could go up.
their quote says it expires 12/31.
Does it?
It does. It does.
My second question is we've heard in the news lately about a death by an officer who mistook their taser, mistook the regular gun, I guess, I don't know what they're called, and thought it was a taser.
Correct.
What do we have in place from these that would be a safety guarantee for
Training.
our officers?
Training primarily is the result of that. We're all human, so I can't tell you that.
Oh, sure.
I don't know where that officer. I don't want to armchair quarterback. That officer is a mistake. That officer in that situation, if we're on the same one, actually, said we're trained to say the word taser, taser, taser to give others a warning. Okay. And in that situation, my understanding is that person actually said taser, taser, to give the warning and grab the wrong one. And there was a series of trainings that came through where they were trained to do what is like a strong hand. So all the weapons are on one side type thing. And the newest training is to do weak hand. So you don't even put the taser in the hand that you have. And so that is the plan that it is in a month. In fact, it doesn't look and feel like the gun.
A real handgun, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
real handgun's heavy.
Those
are plastic.
It's plastic, and it's a totally different look and feel. But to be able to give you like what could happen, obviously we have proof that it could happen because it did happen. What can we do to prevent it from happening? It's train. And that's part of why this quote was impressive as well. It includes a lot of training.
Yes.
Not just buying a product to throw out here. And I think you heard me say we have some people that have received taser training. It's not in this model. We're making everybody go back through it. And not just through some other company's version. We want the company to teach us so we can teach ourselves. If we do find somebody who, with the review of the body footage or review of these instances, that we'll be able to go back and address these issues with further training or remedial training. So that stuff will never happen, we hope. Training and
If you wanted to show them.
You got the battery?
Yeah, that's how much it.
Two double A, yeah. Thing weighs nothing.
Yeah. So it really comes into the fact that it doesn't. It changes
for being able to light you up the way it does, huh?
It's very effective for somebody. For somebody, it has a significant amount of reduction of workplace injuries.
Yeah. It'll stop.
And they don't use them lightly. I mean, we don't have a issue with overuse, but we do have it. We do have the ability with additional the idea of the body camera to review these incidents. So we will be reviewing those instances and taking those instances into account to review to see if that should have been used. There's probably going to be more instances where we should have used them that we didn't
Right.
than not. The officers are just not. They're just not trained to be heavy-handed. They're trained to not be heavy-handed.
Yeah, not
So-
aggressive.
Any other questions about the contract or what we're going to be asked to consider today concerning the purchase of these and the source of the funding, the resolution? There's several components that go with this process today when we get into our business session. No other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Adams, do we have any other business that needs to, from staff for work session topics?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Striblin, do you have any other topics to come before the board today, as we normally do at the end of our work sessions?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Woody?
No, I just wanted to remind people that if we're going to have caroling from the courthouse steps, this is the 10th year that we've led this through the Jackson County Arts Council. It's Thursday, this coming Thursday at 6:15. So we'd love to have anyone join us for caroling.
Okay. Commissioner Deeds, did you have anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, then I think that brings us to the end of our work session. Do I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll give staff just a second to transition to the new. So we'll take at least a 10-minute recess and then we'll come back.